95%. That's how much of the world's rare earth refining sits inside China, quietly powering everything from your car door motor to the guidance systems of fighter jets. And nobody noticed the danger until it was already too late. Europe thought its dependence on Russian gas was the worst vulnerability of our time. Then experts revealed that dependence on Chinese critical minerals is far, far worse. Because if Russia turns off the gas, you freeze. But if China turns off the minerals, your entire industrial base stops breathing. Factories don't slow down, they die instantly. Automakers, wind turbine manufacturers, electronics giants, all of them rely on tiny invisible magnets built from rare earths. Take those magnets away, and 13 million European workers in the car sector wake up to a silent factory floor, not because the machines broke, but because a few grams of material vanished from the global supply chain. China knows this. That's why it's no longer just exporting magnets, it's licensing them. A German CEO may one day need to fly to Beijing not to negotiate a price, but to ask for permission to keep his business alive. If Beijing says no, Europe's proud industrial heart grinds to a halt. And even if the West redesigns every motor and turbine to avoid rare earths, the cost would skyrocket, making any company outside China uncompetitive before the fight even begins. This isn't theory. China already used this weapon. When a promising Swedish battery company looked like it might challenge Chinese producers, China tightened the tap on graphite exports. No dramatic announcement, no diplomatic crisis, just a quiet bureaucratic choke. Costs rose, deadlines slipped, investors fled, and within 2 years, the Swedish dream was dead. A single mineral choke point killed an entire industry. A decade ago, Western leaders laughed at the idea of minerals being weaponized. They believed the market would always fix shortages, prices go up, new suppliers emerge, the system balances. But that world no longer exists. Minerals have stopped being commodities. They've become leverage, pressure points, bargaining chips, held by a state that understands geo-economic power in a way the West forgot. Rare earths aren't rare, but refining them is filthy, toxic, expensive, and politically painful. China embraced that pain. The West exported it. And the result is a world where the United States may have the ore, Australia may have the mines, Africa may have the deposits, but China has the only thing that truly matters: the machinery, the chemicals, the engineers, and the industrial muscle to turn rocks into power. China didn't start as the leader. After World War II, America dominated rare earths with its massive Mountain Pass mine. Europe had the labs, the engineers, the know-how. But in the 1990s, something happened. Japan and the US, trying to protect their own industries, restricted Chinese access to key technologies. That move backfired. It forced China to build its own expertise and to lure European firms into joint ventures that quietly transferred decades of refinement knowledge into Chinese hands. Western companies loved the profits. Western politicians loved that the pollution was far away. China loved everything else. 30 years later, the consequences are irreversible. Environmental restrictions make building new Western refineries nearly impossible. China's factories operate at a scale no newcomer can match. State subsidies allow Chinese producers to instantly crush foreign competitors by flooding the market. And while Europe graduates a few hundred specialists, China produces tens of thousands every single year. This is why catching up is nearly impossible. Mines take a decade to open, refineries take even longer, permits are slow, local resistance is strong, investors are nervous. Meanwhile, China can flip a policy switch overnight. The West isn't just behind, it's running uphill while China already reached the summit. And yet the strangest part is this: the situation once looked exactly the same, but the roles were reversed. In the 1990s, China was the outsider with no technology, no scale, and no leverage. The West held everything. China climbed anyway. Slowly, methodically, relentlessly. The question now is whether the West even remembers how to do the same. Rebuilding independence sounds heroic on paper, but in the real world, it begins with something far less glamorous: fear. The kind of fear that forces governments to admit the free market will not save them this time, because minerals don't care about ideology. They don't care about trade agreements, or WTO rules, or polite diplomatic language. They care about where they are dug up, and who controls the machines that turn them into the materials every modern technology depends on. For years, Western leaders dismissed this. They believed efficiency was everything, and the cheapest supplier should always win. And for decades, that cheapest supplier was China. not because its geology was superior, but because it accepted the environmental cost, deployed massive subsidies, and built industrial capacity on a scale the West no longer remembered how to match. Today, the bill for that efficiency has finally arrived. China now holds a near monopoly, not just in rare earth magnets, but across the wider spectrum of critical minerals. Copper is mined in Chile, Peru, Congo, but processed overwhelmingly in China. Lithium comes out of Australia and Latin America, but ends up refined in Chinese plants. Cobalt is scraped from the mud of Congo before being shipped to Chinese chemical refiners. Graphite, nickel, manganese. Different minerals, same story. The mine isn't the real power. The refinery is. And the refinery is in China. Indonesia is the only major exception, controlling the world's largest nickel supply and increasingly its refining. But even there, China moved first, pouring money and engineers into Indonesian nickel facilities until the Indonesia exception quietly became another extension of Chinese industrial strategy. The West keeps discovering vulnerabilities only after it is too late. But the question nobody likes to ask is, how did China manage to build this empire of minerals and magnets while the West was supposedly richer, more advanced, and decades ahead? The answer is uncomfortable. It wasn't just Chinese planning. It was Western decisions, deliberate ones, decisions driven by corporate incentives, political convenience, and a belief that globalization was eternal. Western companies wanted higher margins. Their governments wanted cleaner air and less industrial mess. China offered both, low costs and the promise to handle all the toxic work far away from European voters. All it asked in return was access to technology and forced joint ventures, a request Western firms accepted without hesitation. Every ton of ore that left a Western port for a Chinese refinery carried a little bit of know-how with it. Every factory that relocated carried a blueprint. Every engineer who trained a Chinese team added a missing skill. And once China absorbed enough, it scaled those skills to a level the West could no longer compete with. This is why reversing dependence is so hard. The West didn't just lose supply chains, it forgot how to build them. Rebuilding means confronting brutal math. An American rare earth mine might come online in 2030. A European refinery might pass environmental review in 2032, but China can open a new plant in 12 months. It can subsidize losses for 10 years. It can cut prices to zero for as long as it needs to push competitors into bankruptcy. You cannot beat a nation that plays by different rules while you cling to rules written for a world that no longer exists. That's why governments are scrambling now. The US, Europe, Japan, India, all talking about mineral security, strategic autonomy, critical supply chains. But a slogan is not a shield, and the mineral problem is too big for one nation to solve alone. Europe has money, but not minerals. Japan has technology, but not land. Australia has minerals, but lacks refining. Canada has potential, but not the scale. Each country has a piece of the puzzle, but none has the full picture. China, meanwhile, has spent 30 years assembling every piece into a single, coherent strategy. This is why the idea of a mineral alliance is emerging. A superblock of nations pooling capital, technology, geology, and political power to rebuild the chains they outsourced away. But even that won't work if it relies on market logic. Competing with a geo-economic superpower using free market tools is like bringing a calculator to a knife fight. The West must do something it hasn't done in decades. Use industrial policy not as a last resort, but as a primary weapon. Subsidies for mining, guaranteed prices for refining, tariffs against dumping, public-private partnerships to build recycling plants, regulations that force supply chain transparency, strategic stockpiles not just of oil, but of cobalt, nickel, dysprosium, neodymium, the metals that will decide the shape of the next century. France is already building a magnet recycling plant the size of a stadium. Germany is experimenting with motors that eliminate rare earths entirely. The US is funding domestic refineries for the first time since the Cold War. Even automakers, once content to rely on the cheapest supplier, are now searching for escape routes. But innovation alone isn't enough, because China will not stand still while the West rebuilds. And in a world where minerals are weapons, any counter-weapon must carry a deterrent of its own. The West still holds leverage, hidden, often forgotten, but immense. China depends heavily on Airbus aircraft, Western semiconductor equipment, foreign currencies, global shipping insurance, and access to global banking rails. A coordinated doctrine, one that clearly signals retaliation if minerals are weaponized, may be the only language Beijing respects. Escalate to de-escalate. That's the cold logic of geoeconomics. And beneath all of this lies a deeper truth. This fight isn't really about minerals. It's about sovereignty, industrial survival, the ability of nations to function when supply chains become battlegrounds and global markets become political weapons. The age of naive globalization is over. The age of geoeconomics has begun. There's a moment in every global cycle when the world realizes something too late. A moment when the lights are still on, the factories are still running, the shelves are still full, but underneath it all, the system has already started to break. With minerals, that moment is now. Most people won't feel it until the consequences are impossible to ignore. Until a car plant suddenly delays production for an unexpected supply issue. Until a wind turbine project goes over budget because imported magnets doubled in price. Until defense contractors quietly admit they can't build next year's systems without approval from a foreign capital. By then, the vulnerability will no longer be a theory. It will be a lived reality. The truth is simple. Every empire, every industrial superpower, every great nation in history rose on top of a material advantage. Bronze, iron, coal, oil, silicon. And now, in the age of electrification and data, the new strategic foundation is minerals. The rare, the refined, the ones that appear in grams, not barrels. And whenever a material becomes the foundation of global power, whoever controls it shapes the world. China understood this first. The West understood it last. But history doesn't care who understood first or last. It only cares who adapts. The patterns repeat. The country that embraces industrial reality wins, and the one that clings to ideology loses. No civilization was ever saved by slogans about efficiency. They survive only when they confront their weakness head-on, before someone else exploits it. Right now, the world is entering a phase where interdependence is no longer safety. It's exposure. Supply chains no longer represent cooperation. They represent leverage. And minerals no longer represent geology. They represent sovereignty. The old dream of globalization promised that no nation would ever again use these vulnerabilities as weapons. The new reality proves the opposite. The question is not whether China will use its mineral dominance. It already has. Quietly, surgically, enough to send a message. The real question is how the rest of the world responds when the next pressure point is squeezed a little harder. Some countries will build alliances. Some will subsidize their industries. Some will redesign their technologies to escape dependence entirely. Most will wait too long because change is expensive and vulnerability is invisible until the day it isn't. If you want to know where this story goes next, don't look at speeches or press releases or diplomatic summits. Look at the things nobody notices. Stockpiles of cobalt rising in ports, recycling plants opening in forgotten industrial towns, governments quietly adding dysprosium to their strategic reserves, defense contractors rewriting procurement guidelines, automakers bidding for long-term supply deals at any cost. Those are the early signals, the tremors before the shift. Because cycles don't announce themselves, they build quietly, underneath daily life, until one day, the structure of the global economy no longer resembles what it used to be. Rare earths, copper, lithium, nickel, cobalt, graphite, each one a new thread in a new map of power. A map where control is measured not in armies or treaties, but in the invisible materials inside every machine humans depend on. The world is waking up slowly, but history is not waiting. A new contest has begun, not for land, not for ideology, but for the minerals that make civilization run. The side that treats them as strategic assets will shape the century. The side that sees them as mere commodities will be shaped by it. And the most unsettling part? The cycle has already turned. Most people just haven't noticed yet.